I don't use that phrase like it saved my life gingerly, but I mean, that suicide hotline phone call, it saved my life. The story actually begins prior to me calling the hotline. We use the word crazy loosely a lot of the time, but I think the best way to describe the feeling I was having at the time was crazy. I was by myself. I was actually on my way to pick up my daughter at the time from daycare. Being on the bus and feeling crazy, feeling like I wanted to take my clothes off, like I wanted to jump off the bus. I wanted to harm myself. I can't call the suicide hotline on the bus right now because that's gonna look really crazy. So the best thing to do would be I had known that New York has, I forget what the number is, where essentially you can have a text conversation to help you through the process if you feel like you're going to harm yourself. It was like, okay, I'm trying to text. I text the message. It took like a minute to get back. And it's like, what is your problem? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna text you, robot person on the other side, what my problem is. Okay, I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I'm like, okay, do I run across the street? Because at this point, I'm trying to figure out either, do I harm myself or do I not harm myself? Like one or two. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to do something. So I called the suicide hotline. And I can't remember the exact, how the phone call began, essentially, but I remember the feeling of the phone call. And I remember being affirmed because I just felt overwhelmed between work, between life, between fatherhood, between not really knowing what I was doing. And in that moment, it felt like it was going to be easier to not be here and to essentially try to end my life. And to have a person kind of listen to the stress of the moment and say, it is okay, you're okay. Wow, this must be really hard for you. This situation is really difficult. You're doing a fantastic job though, based on what you're telling me. Listening without judgment, without bias, without prejudice. That suicide hotline phone call saved my life, and I wish I could remember the sister's name who I spoke to, because she was so warm, she was so loving, she was so comforting. She sounded like a Black auntie. Warmth was the word. There were no identifying questions at all. She doesn't know my name, she doesn't know where I'm from. She didn't know where I was located. The conversation was directly related to what I was going through at that present moment and those feelings. She didn't ask me anything else, like, where are you? Or, none of that. Part of what she was doing was just allowing me the space really to vent. It was less questions and more affirming. It was just something I needed, because there's that level of shame you feel, essentially, when you're trying to tell a person that you care about that I essentially want to harm myself. Because then it's very easy, unfortunately, for people who do know you to start blaming themselves. I think sometimes there's a fear, right? Like, okay, do I make this phone call? Am I essentially going to look crazy? Is it crazy? Does it even work? And granted, I'm very much the person that doesn't believe in absolutes, so not everything works for everybody. Sometimes maybe it's not the hotline, maybe it's a relative, it's a friend, it's someone you can call who's going to essentially be able to give you that space and that freedom and that room to give of yourself without concern of bias or prejudice or judgment. But the suicide hotline did that for me, for sure. It's easy to kind of stigmatize how a person looks. Who might be suffering from some level of a mental health disorder, or a person who may be depressed. I don't look like the stereotypical person who's been suffering from that. I'm also going through this and processing this. I know you probably are too. I've kind of been blessed and fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to have the language and have the space to do that. So I feel like it's kind of my duty to kind of share that with other people.